All right. Hello, Mr. Mark Romero here. How are you? I am so excited to be having this conversation today. This redefines, I was just laughing with Shannon prior to coming on. This redefines quantum conversations. This is like bolded, underlined, hieroglyphed. However, we got fancy graphics in there. And so we're definitely diving in deep today. No pressure, right? But that's definitely the direction we're going. And hopefully, and really holding the space that all of us come away from this further enlightened, further aware of the magnificence within us, the challenges that we all face, and ultimately how we can transcend them. But before I start chatting with Shannon, I want to do a formal introduction. So I want to read her bio. Shannon's work supports the human vessel's incredibly intelligent biotechnology. She channels light frequencies, and let me tell you something, she definitely does, that help restore distorted DNA, resolve discordant belief systems, and teach others to access and trust their unique psychic capabilities for healing. Shannon guides individuals on a path of energetic freedom, supporting the sovereignty of their divine purpose. Please, so excited to welcome Shannon Pardini. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking for our time together.
Oh, thank you, Mark. And again, I just appreciate you and thank you for coming along with the ride with me lately on this quantum adventure. So I appreciate everything you're doing and all the people you're supporting.
Hey, whatever it takes to light the light and further move us to new levels. And that's what I love about the work that you're doing. The power of it, I think, is so important. One of the terms that you utilize a lot, and I hear it out there being used, and I think it's used in a number of different ways. But, we've all been kind of cast into this matrix, this illusional world in which we live in. And I think within that world are certain limiting beliefs that aren't the truth of the who and what we are. But I'd love to kind of start off with how would you define the matrix?
Yeah, well, we're just getting right in there.
We're diving in. I told you,
Yeah, no, I love it.
one of
But
conversations and then some.
Ye- Yeah, the Matrix. Let me step back in this one. The Matrix really it to me is it's a looping cycle. It's a looping cycle of information that we are on a third dimensional planet tied to the Earth plane by way of our DNA and our DNA, which is our software system within this beautiful biotechnology um, because of the way that we are currently identifying in the matrix or through our ego, mind, intellect, is creating that information that we're taking upon ourselves and making agreements around. So the matrix is many things. The matrix can be a tool. There's nothing wrong with our matrix except the fact that this biotechnology that we're living in, this physical body, is way more intelligent than the matrix we're currently allowing ourselves to make agreements with in the physical anatomy, which is keeping us in different looping cycles, emotion chemical cycles, life and death cycles, rapid aging, and so forth. The matrix, it's an algorithm. The matrix is limited beliefs that cause emotions that cause physical sensations or chemicals of all sorts. And so, again, like I said, there's a lot to learn from the matrix itself. But I'll just start there and then I'll let you ask me more questions as we go deeper down the rabbit hole of the
So,
matrix.
so is it like, do we truly live in an illusional world? Obviously we all experience life. We experience things primarily coded through our senses and the frequency ranges in which our ears and our eyes and our senses all have been calibrated to receive information. But is it an illusional world? Do we really live in kind of this quantum projection? Um, that makes up our day-to-day experiences.
Yeah, a good question. Very much so. This very much depending on how you're utilizing your software system DNA. If we're in the observation within our everyday world, the quantum field, our environment, it's really coming from the magnetics of our programming. So everything that we currently are identifying through the ego or our mind is really coming from a place where humans like to overanalyze and over-identify everything because we want to know what everything is. But the illusion in itself, because of the way that we're using our software system, we are coding these physical bodies into magnetics of what they think they know and programming. So it's this consistent looping system. Does that make sense to you?
No, absolutely it does. So we've come here as our true nature, that being of divine expressions of universal source energy, the oversoul, I guess, however you choose to define it. We squeeze ourselves into this like little helpless little baby form, and we come in here to have this human experience. We forget the truth of who and what we are, it seems. We don't remember what, at least most people don't remember what happened before they incarnated in physical form on the planet. It's like, is this by design? And if it is by design, why would we choose to come here and play this we know can be a very challenging game, a very upsetting game. It can be painful. It can be all these different things that the human experience is. Is it by design? And have we really kind of stepped into this experience to experience the truth of who and what we are by, in essence, kind of forgetting and experiencing what's not the truth of who and what we are?
Yeah, I think I'll just kind of talk about it through my perspective and the journey that I've been on in the Ascension, which started really young. One, I am a walk-in, and you and I have talked about that. I think you mentioned that you had similar experience. So within the walk-in experience, me coming into this physical vessel when it was either 6 or 7 years old, but I have no memory before then. And the first time I remember coming into this physical vessel was through a soul swap situation. And so the first time coming into this body, I was in a pool of water, and I think the other soul was having a death experience, and then I was having, as the swap, I was having the near death experience, I guess. And then coming into the vessel, I remember looking up, and I was completely breathing in the water, and I was in this really expansive space of being birthed this way and swapping in the physical vessel. And so through that walk-in process, and many people have had similar experiences. This isn't just me. I've talked to many people that are walk-ins or have had near-death experiences and then swapped in the actual vessel. But from that experience, when I came in, I everything felt backwards. Like I had a keen sense that things felt so off around me, and I was empathic, just like a way shower, but even more so. It was just like laser understanding where people were communicating from, but also knowing that it felt really vibratory wrong. So speeding up to where I am today, it's a part that I always go back to that keeps me in the advancing potential role with DNA, because that moment I realize like there is something so much more to this, and there's different ways that one can be birthed, and at different conscious intelligence levels of coming into this experience. So with the human experience, the one thing I do know is our physical bodies are the greatest biotechnology. They are so incredibly intelligent, and we're not using them in the capacity that they were meant to be used. And so within this beautiful physical body, there's a lot of dormant, ascended technology or anatomy that wants to come online. But again, by the way that we're using our software system, the DNA, we're consistently always in a looping cycle, programming the magnetics of this body from old subconscious behaviors and programming, which pushes down these areas that are intelligent that really want to come online. But again, through the way the DNA is working in an inversion where it's consistently looking and identifying through the ego, right, of limited beliefs, emotions, chemicals, it's consistently bringing that information in where it's meeting in different areas of the body, and the body is creating patterns, is creating loops, is creating slow moving dense waveforms where again the in the advanced technology, we're basically stuffing the intelligence that wants to come online. Now, going back to why would we want to come into something like this? Well, one thing that I do know, because I've spent years now really advancing my body's technology and leading people into ascending their body and bringing and learning how to use DNA in the correct way, which is learning to use your DNA and frequency. So no longer are you in your mind and your ego. You learn how to drive this beautiful technology, this beautiful intelligent ship from just frequency itself. The physical body holds the intelligence, the mind, ego, and intellect do not. And so going back again to why would we want to go through the whole matrix and keep doing these repeated cycles, reincarnation? Well, to me, especially from doing years of hypnosis on people, there's there's this to advance consciousness into intelligence.
Mm.
There is a level of wanting to know thyself in the matrix algorithm. Again, for one to truly ascend, and a lot of light workers, way showers, healers, they're all coming from a point where they're all going so deep and excavating limited beliefs and going to all these places where they want to know, right? What is this information? What is this depth? But that is exactly it. Again, all of us coming onto planet, there's nothing wrong with the matrix, good or bad, but we've had a lot of reincarnation. A lot of us have had lifetimes 400 to 1200. Some people are new on planet, but we all wanted to know ourselves in all these ways.
Mm,
And
mhm.
so, again, why would we want to keep putting ourselves through this? Well, I think we're at a time, and I'm just going to say that we're at a point where we get to ascend together. We're at a point where we're starting to have the conversations of, what really is our software system. And it does come down to the fact that for you to ascend your physical body and the intelligence that's waiting, that's dormant within the software system, you have to have an understanding of the vibratory matrix itself. Each vibratory frequencies that the matrix holds is a stepladder through consciousness to allow you to exit the matrix. So again, the matrix is, it's beautiful in its essence that we all chose it through collective agreements to actually again, ascend what it means to be advanced potential. And I think we're just at that point now where it's starting to happen and the conversations are getting really good, and there's more detail there. It's not a lot of this woohoo and outside of ourselves. It's like, okay, this ascension is very inward, and learning all these different vibratory frequencies of information in the physical body that are consistently speaking to us is an important part to breaking the matrix body within ourselves. And then there is more, again, like I said, to this biotechnology that's dormant, that's just waiting for us to fully take it online.
I love synchronicity because Dr. Jones, who I had mentioned to you before, was the gentleman who discovered the frequencies in my music. And I was really having a hard time. This is, almost 20 years ago now, conceptualizing what he was very similar to what you're talking about, but using different languaging. But he put it in a way that I really kind of got an understanding of it. He said, and it's so interesting because you kind of use some of the same terminology. He said, we are super biological wireless computers. We have the connection to the ultimate super internet. And basically, like our own technology, we have tried to recreate ourselves. We have a CPU, a mind, that codes ones and zeros, vibrational information, and puts it up on the screen of our life experience. Coming out of the semiconductor industry and computer world, I completely understood that analogy. And in essence, really what you're saying is kind of like the same thing. Humanity's been running like MS-DOS or Windows 98 for thousands of years. And as a result of that, we've created a world that's dysfunctional, that's disharmonious, in which we're looping back in cycles and things don't seem to be changing. And I love how you mentioned that there's a shift and a change taking place. It's like was there a calling that went out and said, hey, you know what, it's time for people to show up here and start bringing technology that can really help people, in essence, upgrade the operating system of their minds to be able to start coding a different sort of reality and ascending to a new level of possibility. Is there, it seems to me like we're in this consciousness revolution, evolution that's really just over the last couple of years gained tremendous momentum. And I've heard this analogy. A calling went out. Hey, who would like to come here and incarnate and bring in frequency, energy, understanding to help elevate this world in which we live in? I wonder, do you think that's the case? Do you think that's really a possibility of this world that we live in, this matrix, so to speak?
I like the question. And for me, nothing's outside of ourselves. There's no separation outside of ourselves. And so within us is this vibratory, very intelligent essence that is our innate source. And again, when I think of ascension, ascension within the biotechnology can't be done anything outside of you or separate from you. It can't be done from information outside of you. And so within that calling that you mentioned, it's we already have this essence where, within that innate source frequency within the DNA, it already knows it's whole. This biotechnology already knows it's whole. And that's what leads me. That's what leads me to teaching people how to access these scalar frequencies that are already inside of us, but they're just dormant. Because, like you said, that is the super highway of information. We all already have it.
Mhm.
It's just that we've completely make things complicated by the way that we're currently using our software system in inversion patterns. But there was nothing wrong with that. It's just the way that we happen to come into a third dimensional planet, right? Like, what else would 3D be? But going back to what you said, the one thing that I always make clear as I'm teaching people and holding them in a space where they can start shifting neural pathways on a very high level of frequency, so it's not keeping them in their old safety mechanism of the matrix, is there cannot be anything outside of you. There's no room for having identity through your mind, intellect, and ego in all this, because that stuff is recycled programming. So within the biotechnology, it's a complete inside job of fully understanding the organization that's always there for us. We have frequencies of high intelligence through the H3O2, which is the very electrical structured organized waters of us that you can get inside and commune with. That, again, the biotechnology within this body, it will lead us. It has all these different areas that we're not exploring, but again, we're blocked because people are obsessed with the matrix and its limitations and the limited beliefs, right? That they're in these deep looping patterns because of the way that the neural pathways have been programmed from not just from this lifetime, but going back to, it could be through the bloodline a couple generations. I usually see like 2 generations back what's going on there, but then it's a lot of carryover.
Right.
And so answering your question, I know that was long-winded. It's I don't think there was a calling. I think that we already know what we are, and we keep coming here evolving, evolving and through collective agreements. And I think that we're just at a point that there is so much beautiful information of source coming through us all that the agreements are, shifting through intelligence.
Right.
But I think the biotechnology, if I had to answer this question intelligently, the biotechnology, whatever's happening, it's really just coming online, and it I do believe it's just firing up, and people are getting ready. And whether that's an agreement or not, I don't know, but something's happening, and you can feel the vibratory of it. And I know a lot of it has to do with these scalar fields of source being held by, enough people who are coming online consciously. But like I said, just even talking about it, I can feel the biotechnology spin state like ramping. So I think our little spaceships are just ready, right? They're just ready for us to activate them.
Well, I love what you say that everything is already within and that life truly is an inside out thing, where we have been taught through limiting belief structures and some of those things you mentioned where it just didn't feel right, like it was backwards, that if we're going to change life, we want to change it out there. And so many of us have felt the frustration and the agony of trying to change life out there and not being able to do so. So this opens up to this whole aspect of activating this divine innate program that's within us. And how do we begin that journey? I think all of us, especially if you're tuned into this show, there's a part you want to access the truth of who and what you are. You want to reveal the divine masterpiece that's within. How do we begin that journey, and what can help us to accelerate this process of bringing online this true divine essence that you're talking about?
Yeah, good question. Stepping in when one's ready to evolve and start really going through ascension, that's embodiment. That's really learning how to embody source frequency. And so step one is really, again, is just knowing enough's enough. Like when you've had enough limited belief, chemical, whether it's disease, form, or stuff is starting to ramping up, that dark night of soul, right? Or cancer is present. A lot of us start going through a quick awakening because we're seeing that the body is completely on automatic pilot, right? The body is in a very subconscious state. But I think what comes to one is their innate intelligence that, okay, there's something more than this,
Right.
and so that awakening leads a person to start becoming more conscious in the choices of their daily life. Well, that's step one is, you know, becoming more conscious in the choice. Is it coming, am I making a choice through my programming and subconscious? Am I making choices through my ego, my mind, my intellect? Or am I making choices that are sound, that vibratory, feel good, coming from a place where it's an expanded state? It's a total yes. It's not a maybe. Maybe is a no. Again, then going deeper, like stepping deeper into what I just said, knowing when you're in the matrix, which is limited beliefs, chemical, any type of emotions, anytime lethargic, just dense patterns within the body?
Mhm.
Or are you in more of a flow state, right? So what I always tell people, when you're in the process, it's kind of like we're driving, right? So you're in the car and you're just in this flow state, you're just in this really nice one field of frequency. And people can't hold that just yet, but they're holding a little bit of that flow state. So I know people here know what I'm talking about. But then you hit that divider, right? And the body's like, and that's the chemical emotion and limited beliefs. And to get right back in your lane when you're driving, right? And get back into that field of intelligence, to keep moving on that timeline. Well, that's number one again of, how people can start checking themselves to start helping your neural pathways shift out of a place that they've been programmed to keep you safe,
Right.
because humans have never learned how to hold fields of frequency within the physical body beyond their limitations long enough where it actually, again, where the neural pathways aren't, getting in the way and bringing them into what they think is safety from their programming.
So how can we enhance that capacity and that ability to hold these higher level frequencies within ourselves?
Practice. It's first, the start of it is catching it. Just by one when you're in chemical, right? A lot of people can go 1 to 10 really fast in anxiety and cortisol, whatever chemical it is. But to me, it doesn't matter what chemical the body is making, because the biotechnology and body already knows at a very innate level it's already whole. When
Mhm.
we're in any type of chemical or limitation or dense frequency that's getting fired by, it's the body's firing those frequencies, the body's saying, like, hey, this is not who you are. How, here, I'll give you another frequency and another frequency and another frequency. And it's like, until you get back to that space of take a pause, catch yourself. What are you identifying in that's outside of yourself? If you're in a chemical, it's not true to who you are. Your body already knows what you are. The body, again, is intelligent. It knows what a whole pure frequency is. The body wants to be in no time, no space. But when people are really like identifying through the ego and their programming is coming up of, all the different things, suffering to be loved, survival, fear, all the different levels of disconnected from source and all those things, that it's an easy way to be like, oh, that's not who I am whatsoever. So just catching the chemical, number one, and allowing yourself to step back. Yeah, the chemical may be stronger than you, but by you just taking a step back for a moment and knowing that that's not the truth of who you are, and the only reason why your body's firing off that chemical is because that it's foreign. You just identified in something that was a programming that created, survival happening within the neural pathways, survive, right? All the mechanisms are firing, but it's easy to assess that stuff. So
Right.
again, anytime you're in chemical emotions or limited beliefs, it's not true to what your body is whatsoever. These physical bodies are so intelligent. That fire signal is just saying, hey, get back in your lane, get back in that flow state,
So
step back
obviously
and observe.
the body notifies us when we're out of alignment, when we're not in alignment, we're on those bumps on the side of the lane. So, how do you guide a person that perhaps maybe for years has held in these discordant frequencies within themselves, matrix based or whatever, and it's metastasized as some form of dis-ease, whether it's an autoimmune disease, a cancer, or whatever it might be? What does a person do when they're in that situation where the notification from the body is tremendously loud? How would you advise somebody in that type of situation?
Mhm. Yeah, I work with people all the time that have, very aggressive cancers, very much form in their body, different disease. And they learn to shift fast, right? When you have something on that level of frequency, that's become actual form. People that are actually in that type of position learn this stuff even faster, right? But what I do is When someone's first learning their physical body, I will trace with them. If I'm doing a healing or hypnosis on somebody, I can listen to them talk for a while. I'll see how they're identifying through their ego. I'll hear similar loops of what they're creating through coding through DNA. And then I'll check about 2 generations back to see if they picked up same patterns within the bloodline. And then from there, I can go right into the carryover. And once I assess that and I know what the root belief is, I will take a person from conscious to subconscious in a theta scalar state
Mhm.
where they can feel all the different vibratory frequencies. We go down each one by one. I push them through each one, and they get to see each vibratory frequency of information that they're holding, that they created within their own matrix body that became form.
Right.
And as I do that and I get them to the very root of it, I take them even deeper to where they're in the physical body, where it actually holds pure no time, no space. It's in this very intelligent field where they can look up at the paper trail that we walk down and they can see from a space of how they co-created. And so with that too, at the same time, as I'm walking them down, I give them an opportunity to, they don't have to fully identify in all this limitation frequencies that we're going down, but they get to shake them out. Because the body, again, it's having all these different chemicals and sensations of information because we keep recycling the same information through our identity, right? But when we get to like go in this way through a meditative state and actually look at what this information is and see what our agreements have been, and then how tightly these, these different frequencies are and where they're wound up in the different organs, right? Because the different organs hold different frequencies of, you know, fear, anger, all that stuff.
Right.
It just becomes real, not real to them. It becomes like, oh my God, I am storing this much information and this level of layers. No wonder why the body feels so dense. The body is having to make space to hold all this information. And so for the people that I work with, it starts for them like, oh, okay, this is what happens. This is the way the body stores information. And it's easy to start releasing too when you understand again how the biotechnology works.
Right.
We're
So,
not locked into anything.
so do you primarily work with physical healing, or does it apply to other facets of expression of the individual, like maybe relationship, or maybe opening up to prosperity, or deepening their spiritual maybe they feel disconnected, their spiritual connection feels broken. I mean, or is it primarily body centered where you focus your work?
It's all of it because going down the paper trails are the fears and the limitations. And each frequency that I walk down is multidimensional as to how it's currently playing out in the person's life in the matrix.
Hmm.
So the more that we clear all these different vibratory sensations, when you get to the root, the chemical body starts dissipating. So what happens is if we get one area, say, of survival, just a very, very deep level of survival, primal survival. And it could be past life. It could be, I'm just going to bring this one up, is the persecution or witch trials, right?
Hmm.
When I can unlock that frequency, it's multidimensional. So, what will happen to a person if they really let go of the distortions and the agreements in the body? It knew, it was like, oh, okay, that was what that is, and I'm not going to hold that anymore. The body will go to, again, more of a consolidated space, to a frequency of no time, no space, instead of holding all these multidimensional timelines. And what happens to a person if I take that level of survival and persecution out of them, they're not going to be feel persecuted in their daily lives. You know, they'll be able to show up and have more of that voice, right? Slowly, they'll be able to have more of that voice. They'll be able to accept more of that abundance because they won't be in that survival programming, consistently thinking there needs to be an energy exchange, right?
Mhm.
And then like something like the witch trials, a lot of people get locked into this frequency of persecution, but also they're afraid to share their gifts, right? And so, you know, this stuff, each frequency is multidimensional as to how it's playing out in our current lifetime,
Right.
right? But if we start going in and really extracting some of these pieces, slowly the chemical matrix body just starts dissolving.
It's
And
so
then
interesting.
whatever starts healing around them is just, you know, great quantum shifts can happen pretty fast.
And, I'm going to have to say that I agree with what you're saying and actually experiencing what you've done. We did a group session. I was involved in a session. And it's so interesting. I have to share this experience because when I first found out about my healing gift, I wasn't happy about it. It brought up this fear. It was pure freaking terror, is what it was. I remember one day I'm like, no, I don't want nothing to do with this. I don't want no healing mumbo jumbo in my music or whatever. I was like terrified. And literally within a minute, my phone rings and it's Doc. He's like, what's going on? I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'm detecting a fluctuation in your field. And I'm like going, now I'm really freaked out, So over the course of my journey, there's been this, I don't want nothing to do with healing. I don't, I was not happy about healing frequencies in my music. I've done work over the years, but nothing like what we had done the other day in this group process. And it is so interesting because one of the things that came up that you addressed, you tuned into the group. This was really an amazing process. And it was like, oh, okay, I see some of this fear of being a healer, stepping into your gift. We're going to do some work around that area, you know? And so we go through the process. And I didn't really connect it until a conversation literally just a few days after that session where somebody told me, I really see you as this like vibrational healer. And it like pinged in me when she said that. But what I noticed, there wasn't the fear and the terror that I had been struggling with over the years in one way, shape, form, or another. I know I had moved through a lot, but it was like this was a whole nother level of freedom from whatever had happened in past life experiences, in this life, whatever, you know, that caused me to try to run away from that for so many years and really caused a lot of challenge in stepping into what I'm doing today. And so I really have to commend what you do and the energy that you bring in and how you support people and letting go of that. Because I'm speaking from firsthand experience, which is really cool to be able to do, where I was able to let go of a huge piece of fear around being if somebody called me a vibrational healer, I would have literally run down the street, you know, and now I don't, and I'm like, you know what, I can own that, and that's what I really felt when I let go. Now that's different. That's something, that's a big shift. So thank you for the space and the opportunity to experience that. That's my way of giving you praise and giving you a testimonial that what you're doing is amazing. And I noticed in that experience that you brought in different types of frequencies. How does that work? How does that help in this overall process?
Right. Yeah, no, it's an accumulation of like 20 plus years where I can read I can read where people are consciously at all times. And then I'm so multisensory that I can just go in and look at the body and see exactly what it's holding in the matrix frequency. And then because we're still working on a 3D level, when I'm going in to extract those matrix frequencies out, I've co-created in different, even though I'm holding the field in a very intelligent, no time, no space of using my software system. So when I'm going in, it's a very pure, but I've created these different frequencies where that I'm using a scalar. They all have their own conscious and information. And I, for me, it's like each one helps each person release their agreements. So there's so many different fields that I use that you notice. Like I brought in different source frequencies of scalar. I also do energetic needling in the meridians. I can see where everyone's congested in their inflammation, in the lymph flow, and there's just so much getting coordinated at all times. And again, it just comes from my mastery of, where I built this upon. It's like I studied advanced yoga in my 20s in this huge advanced boot camp of a situation. I got into Reiki very young. I've done so much different energy techniques, but I always expanded on my own, especially when I was younger. I would sit in meditation for just very long periods of time, but I was always activating, doing all kinds of energetic work. And then even with the hypnosis itself, I took myself through hypnosis for a full year, taking myself into the fields for 8 hours a day. And I was looking at all these different frequencies. I was already pretty masterful at that point, but I wanted to look in depth at what this matrix really was. And, I really got to figure out the matrix body. And then I spent time, in the shamanic community, learning all the different, ideas around that and techniques, and spent time in the medicines. and
Mhm.
and then for the last few years I've been helping people ascend the biotechnology and actually walking the path of what it takes to ascend, and proving what's possible. So all the stuff that I bring to the hypnosis is my tool belt. I took the best of the best of what I knew worked for me, and once I was really clear as to what was happening, I just brought it into the actual process. And I keep fine tuning the process. Every time I go in, I bring in something new. And it's always surprising me because I'm in that field that we talk about, right? Where I have access to my source and I know how to use it. But when I'm in that field, it's so fast and it's like, okay, go do this. And there'll be something new coming that I get to bring in and clear with people.
Well, you definitely have some skills. I'll be the first to vouch for that. And before we came on, I'm like, oh man, Shannon, you're high gradient, man. I mean, it was like a roller coaster ride. I didn't even need the belts. I think I mentioned that too. And the
I
belts,
love
you
that.
don't even need the belts, man. You're just going on the ride. I keep thinking of that picture, a meme that's been online with like the higher selves laughing and little kids next to it going, and like the person that's incarnated in the human experience. So I want to know, all right, so we start bringing online this innate intelligence that's within us. What are the possibilities that can open up for ourselves and ultimately for the world that we live in as a result?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So when you start accessing and you're able to hold your body in a very consolidated field of your own intelligence, the body becoming that no time, no space that it wants, you realize there's nothing outside of yourself. You realize when you get to that level of advancing your own potential that you know how to make choice of what you want to co-create in and what magnetics you want your body to be in frequency that are going to create the timelines that you'll experience right day to day. So you get so I always say like when you're expanding and embodied through this different type of foundation of mastery, what happens is you hit this innate genius inside you that you co-create your own energetic field within your body. You realize there's no need for an energy exchange. You realize that the body is already wired to make this electrical system hum and vibrate at a fast speed. So you become lightning bolts of intelligence. It's really, you turn the innate genius on, and your creation is endless. You get on this. when your body's in this vibratory frequency where it knows how to harness and hone through intelligent source that's already in you, you get propelled on your innate timelines and the people, places, and things, quantum leap, right? Because our body, even at this time as I'm talking to all of you, our bodies right now are the magnetics to what you're playing out in your daily life. And it doesn't have to be that way. There is a way to turn it into a sophisticated system by releasing all the density or the old matrix body. But once you start clicking online, things get really, really good. And nothing is in separation. Nothing is outside of yourself. You don't need to go anywhere to access the truest information. And creativity becomes so easy because it's pouring in. You're getting downloads that are pure. You're not getting downloads that are from your programming. You have that access, like you said, Mark, when we first opened it up to the super quantum, highway, but it's inside us. It's just dormant. So once that you wake that up, it's like it's a fun ride, but you have to sustain it by keeping this body, in a really pristine place. So it takes a lot of discipline, it takes a lot of focus, but once you're there, there's no going backwards.
Yeah, that's so cool. It reminds me, and it's been years since I've read this piece, and I don't even remember the context. It was like a fable or something. It talked about where should we hide the secret to humanity? Should we hide it in the mountain? No, they're going to dig a hole. Should we hide it at the bottom of the ocean? No, they're going to find a way to go down there. And finally, they said, let's hide it in the place they'll never find it, within their own selves.
Oh, I love
And isn't that the the mystery of this journey that we're all on? So to kind of
I
conclude,
love that.
I
That's
know it's I
that
have to go dig that story up now because that's where they hit it. And
100%. 100%. I just created a course called the Four Quantum Agreements. And it's a take off the four agreements in some regards, but it's completely sophisticated on what one has to do to embody and hold an ascended state. But again, it is that place. It's what you speak of. It's taking us to the holy grail is learning how to use DNA, baby.
ah, yep, I love that. I love that. So, all right, not to put any pressure on you, but what words of encouragement would you give in this moment to people who are on this journey to bringing online the truth of who and what they are?
Yeah, I love that. I just to know that nothing is outside of yourself. Number one, nothing is outside of us. You can't, do all this outside soul searching to find and activate your innate source. When you're moving through this, it really becomes an act of, you know, a focus and self-discipline of knowing where you are consciously each day, even if it's subconscious, if you're in chemical and so forth, just knowing that that's all it is. And the third thing is know that your biotechnology is already whole. It can quantum shift into all kinds of expansive frequencies, but again, it's moving through the awakening and knowing that you're never going to find the information outside. It is all within, and there's steps. Moving through the matrix is like walking up a step ladder. It's
Mm,
consciousness isn't just consciousness. Consciousness is it's a stairway. It's like once you learn a consciousness, it no longer pertains, it becomes intelligence, but then you move through the next consciousness, and then there's more intelligence, and all that doesn't exist anymore. So
right.
that's what's beautiful about moving through our own matrix, right? And our own limited beliefs. Is there a step ladder to really activating the intelligence within each and every one of us, and really learning that the ego's identity is just the neural pathways trying to keep us safe from, what we programmed to this point, but that can completely be shifted when you learn frequency and what frequency really is. And that's why, Mark, you're so incredible with what you're bringing forward every day, with, really just allowing these frequencies to just, their vibratory rate and so forth, just going through social media. But there's so much intelligence again around these frequencies. So even just holding a state and, listening to your channel, people have great gifts to just allow the body to tune, right? And to just see where they are. But the body is always, it's all knowing, it's always telling. Anytime there's a chemical, it's a fire signal just telling you to get back in your lane. That's not, it's not the truth of who you are. You just identified in programming.
And we all have those moments, I think, from time to time that shows up, and ultimately another providing us another opportunity to let go another piece of what's not the truth of who and what we are. So I love that. And like I said, I love what you're doing, the work that you're bringing forward, how it's helping us to ascend, to awaken, to recreate our lives in different ways. As you were talking about this unfolding in the step ladder, I literally saw like the lotus flower ever continually blooming and blossoming into something new, or the ladder that keeps on going. And I don't know, it seems like we have like a lifetime guarantee of being able to go through these steps of ascension, continuing to move into these higher levels of vibrancy, expression. And as a result, I think really maybe even turning on our own light that somehow in some way impacts others and inspires them to begin the journey or to continue their journey of doing the same thing, of evolving and remembering the truth of who and what they are. I love that. Well, thank you so much. Hey, obviously, I talked about my experience in doing a session with you. How can people find out more about what you're doing? Where would you like them to go to learn more about you and what you're bringing forward?
Yeah, so to find me, my website is easy. It's shannonpardini.com. I have a YouTube channel. I think it's Shannon Pardini, Quantum Healing. And then I know you'll link. But the best place to find me really is shannonpardini.com, and you can contact me and reach out for resources and so forth. And I'm always co-creating different types of lecture series. So I am trying a lot of different ways where I'm bringing this forward to people to help you guys shift and to better understand and know this vehicle.
Well, thank you so much for your commitment, your dedication, your sincerity in that mission and bringing that forward. I'm thankful and grateful for you being who and what you are and shining your light. And I just really want to encourage everybody to go check out the work, the possibilities that are unfolding through Shannon's expression. I think they could dramatically support you in your own personal evolution and unfolding and ultimately remembering who you really are. So, Shannon, thank you so much for spending the time with me today. It has been a complete pleasure and honor to have a chance to have this conversation. And once again, I want to encourage everybody to go check out Shannon's website. They'll be in the comments below, and we'll go from there. So, thank you again, and take care and have a harmonious day.
Thank you. I just honor you. Thank you.
Thanks.